Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are strapping in for a truly grim but necessary look at the conclusion of The Witcher Season 4. Our sources diving into these final two episodes, they suggest this season really ramped up the emotional intensity. The stakes are being described as the highest yet.
Yeah, and that leads to a finale that is just flat out called emotionally devastating.
Exactly. But here's the paradox that, forms our mission today. The sources also argue the show is performing way better than some critics admit.
Largely because it's returned to the broad and, let's be honest, the very grim outlines of the book's central arc.
Right. So we need to unpack this duality. What specific choices made this ending so satisfying for fantasy fans, while also being so utterly traumatizing for the characters? We're talking Geralt, Yennefer, and, well, most crushingly, Ciri. Okay, let's unpack this, starting with the collapse of the Good Witcher's newfound family.
It's a really crucial balancing act, and the finale, I think, executes it by wrapping up several big plot lines while, deliberately ensuring the future looks incredibly bleak.
So where do we see that most?
Well, if you look at the source material, there are really two central threads here. First, the heartbreaking breakup of Gerald's fellowship.
A group that only just found each other.
Exactly. And second, Ciri's tragic detour with the rats, which concludes in just absolute shocking disaster.
Okay, so let's start with Geralt's journey. It begins with a pretty quick descent into horror.
Mhm.
He and his group, they enter a sinister swamp and immediately run afoul of a Rusalka. But then, right after that, comes a much bigger emotional conflict.
The breaking point of the fellowship.
Yeah.
And what's so fascinating is that this partnership, which felt so solid just a few episodes ago, it just fractures almost immediately when it faces real prolonged danger.
So some of them just leave.
They do. Several members just decide they're done courting death. They basically say they have lives to build that aren't tied to Gerald's endless conflict, and they just depart.
It's painful, but I guess it's a necessary culling. It's sad to see them go, but it does leave a core group that's absolutely committed.
And it sets the stage for a really dramatic shift in alliances.
You're talking about that moment of reconciliation between Geralt and Cahir.
Yes, two men who had every reason to be enemies for years.
It isn't just a convenient handshake, right?
No, not at all. The sources emphasize a very specific detail that cements this shift. It's the fact that Geralt saves Cahir from a monster in the swamp. That act of saving a former enemy, it solidifies their allegiance. It shows that survival, at this stage of the war, it trumps old vendettas.
But the new, smaller group doesn't really get time to reflect.
Not at all. They're immediately pulled into a huge conflict, helping a group of guerrilla northerners launch an attack against Nilfgaard.
And the review we saw notes that this action sequence was extremely high quality, very well executed with gnarly death moments.
Oh, it absolutely delivers on the action front.
Yeah.
But the consequence of that victory, that's the political stinger the series is known for.
Yeah.
Gerald finds himself sworn into service to Queen Meve.
And for anyone listening who might not be deep into the lore, who is Queen Meve?
She is the formidable queen of Lyria and Rivia. So the significance here is immense.
Right. It's the ultimate no good deed goes unpunished scenario. Geralt wins a fight and then immediately loses his freedom.
The group literally broke up because they were tired of courting death, and Gerald's big victory immediately binds him to a crown, guaranteeing, perpetual conflict.
So if we connect this to the bigger picture for his character, the real insight is that his fanciful creed of neutrality is finally irrevocably shattered.
By his own success. He's always tried to stand apart from the world's wars, but by doing this one heroic thing for the northern kingdoms, he is now, politically speaking, branded.
He's no longer just a neutral monster slayer.
He's a knight sworn to a queen. And that makes the emotional weight of that twist so much heavier. His personal philosophy has just crumbled.
Okay, moving away from the political entanglements for a sec, I want to talk about the magic and the monsters, because the reviewer really highlights the nuance there as a massive strength.
And that thematic complexity is just fundamental to the source material. It reinforces the idea that true evil, often wears a human face.
We get a perfect aha moment in episode 7, going back to that Rusalka from the swamp. Visually, the creature design it's really disturbing.
Credit where it's due, yeah.
But when the story unfolds, we realize their tragedy is just profoundly human.
They're not some malicious swamp beast. They're revealed to be two wanderers, a mother and daughter who died in the swamp. Now they're just lost souls doing the best they can in a broken world.
It shifts the entire dynamic of that fight.
From good versus evil to, like, tragic necessity, it really grounds the fantasy in palpable sorrow.
But while Gerald is dealing with these complicated, sympathetic monsters, Yennefer is driven by something much sharper.
Righteous vengeance.
Against Vilshorts.
Her path is certainly more singular. We do finally get that long overdue reunion between her and Gerald.
It was lovely to see.
It was.
Mm-hmm.
But the reviewer makes a specific note here that we should probably address. They felt there wasn't the same palpable chemistry between the current actors.
Is that a fair critique, though? I mean, or is the reviewer maybe confusing the chaotic, almost codependent relationship they had before with the more mature, mission-focused dynamic they have now?
That's a great point. The focus has definitely changed. The real takeaway for Yennefer isn't the romance. It's her fierce, relentless determination.
Her mission to find and destroy Vilgefortz.
That vendetta drives her forward, and the reviewer finds this intensity incredibly admirable, even if it feels like she's just walking straight toward her own doom.
And that commitment, it spills over into the broader magical landscape, too. She's not just chasing one bad guy.
No, she's actively guiding her fellow sorceresses to rebuild their sorority after the catastrophe at Duned.
We also see her get involved in that whole complex political deception in Nilfgaard.
Right, she has that brief but really important confrontation with the false Ciri.
Just for context, this false Ciri is the political stand-in that Emperor Emhyr plans to marry. A massive plot point.
The whole Nilfgaard storyline is just a political powder keg, really.
How so?
Well, Emhyr is continuing with this horrifying plan to legitimize his power by marrying a stand-in for his own long-lost daughter. And the truth of that he's passing off a peasant girl as a princess, it threatens to spill out.
So he's risking a civil war?
A civil war, international disgrace, all of it, just to secure his lineage and the throne of Sintra. The stakes could not be higher, and Yennefer knows it.
Okay, so we have political entanglement, fractured fellowships, relentless vengeance. But now we have to move to the character who carried the bulk of that emotionally devastating weight.
Ciri.
Her arc with the rats truly takes center stage in the tragedy of this finale. This season was really defined by Ciri's dark turn. We saw her cross a pretty definitive line, specifically that moment she leaves a man to die.
A terrible man, to be fair.
A terrible man, yes. But she leaves him to die with a piece of his own bone sticking out of his leg. The reviewer points out that that is Ciri's moment of no return.
She has broken from her previous moral self. And this is where her identity crisis just hits its peak. She tried to escape her destiny, to embrace this violent, anarchist lifestyle with the rats.
To leave Cirilla of Sintra behind.
Exactly. But the sources note that despite falling so far, she ultimately can't be anything other than the princess she was born to be. And that identity, the reviewer suggests, may yet be her undoing.
Because the pull of her destiny is too strong.
Even in rebellion. But the ultimate tragedy, the part that really justifies that emotionally devastating label, revolves around the rats themselves.
Okay, let's get into it.
The season's most emotionally wrecking moment was the sudden brutal slaughter of the rats by the bounty hunter Leo Bonhard.
And the review is very clear about this.
It confirms that nothing, not even having read the books and knowing it was coming, could prepare you for how viscerally upsetting this scene was.
That's a powerful statement. It's described as the most traumatizing thing The Witcher has ever shown.
And it specifically notes the brutality. Even the least favorite rats were seen being disemboweled. They really did not pull any punches.
It sounds like this show had the narrative courage to fully commit to the book's darkness, giving the trauma genuine, shocking weight.
And Ciri is forced to watch all of it. She puts up a fierce fight, but she's overwhelmed. She has to watch as her closest companion in the gang, Missile, dies right in front of her.
The trauma is just absolutely...
Leaving Ciri broken and ultimately captured by Bonhart.
And then comes the final, absolutely grisly spectacle that lands like a punch to the gut. Ciri, having already lost everyone and everything, is forced to endure the further ignominy of watching Missile and the others be decapitated.
Just devastation on top of devastation.
And here's where it gets really interesting, because this act isn't just, gratuitous murder. It serves a political function.
Bonhart's goal is to deliver proof to the Emperor.
Their heads are pickled so that he can present them to Emhyr as evidence of, well, what he claims is Ciri's demise.
That horrifying detail, the pickling of the heads, is the ultimate symbolic end to Ciri's attempt at a free life. She's forced to internalize that her rebellion led directly to the brutal, permanent end of her found family.
The grim ending makes it crystal clear. Things are only going to get much, much worse for all three of our heroes.
Absolutely.
Before we look ahead, we should probably touch on another major emotional loss this season.
Vesemir.
Yes, the departure of Vesemir.
A truly heroic loss. He gave his life defending the sorceresses of Monacolvo, and the reviewers specifically preferred Peter Mullen's interpretation of the character, calling it a perfect fitting end for an honorable man.
It does provide a needed heroic counterbalance to the sheer horror Ciri faced.
Yeah, an example of self-sacrifice rather than just brutal destruction.
So, summarizing the overall emotional experience, and this is the surprising part. Despite all the trauma, the pickling, the political heartbreak, the reviewer found this to be a very satisfying season of fantasy TV.
And they specifically compared it to 90s fantasy series, like Xena and Hercules.
Which seems like a very odd comparison for a show that just featured disembowelment, doesn't it?
A little bit, yeah.
But I think it speaks to the effectiveness of the storytelling. The reason it holds up is that 90s fantasy, despite being kind of campy sometimes, was characterized by clear, high-stakes quests and episodic adventures that fed into this massive, overarching mythos.
Exactly. It's the commitment to those core narrative arcs combined with that uncompromising brutality that makes it so satisfying. It's a throwback to a time when fantasy TV wasn't afraid to be epic and emotionally direct.
And looking ahead to the final season, the sources give us a critical hint about how the narrative is going to handle everything.
What's that?
The inclusion of the character Nimue.
Okay, so for listeners, who is Nimue and why does her introduction immediately signal a massive plot shift? Nimue is an extremely important character from the novels. She's often called the Lady of the Lake, but her role is essentially a powerful sorceress who lives far in the future. She's a chronicler of Ciri's history.
Okay.
So her inclusion immediately confirms that Season 5 is going to involve some time travel and, more importantly, those critical, complex plot twists from the novels that involve shifting through space and time.
The scope is about to widen astronomically.
It is. The stage is set for the ultimate confrontation, and the satisfaction comes from the show having the courage to inflict the maximum possible pain on its main character first.
So what does this all mean? This deep dive shows the finale delivered heavy emotional payoffs, brutal action, and critical character convergence. Gerald's neutrality is shattered.
Yennefer is on a clear suicide mission fueled by righteous fury.
And Ciri has been brutally traumatized, captured, and has lost everything. All of this is setting up a final arc with time travel, and it promises even more heartbreak before the credits roll.
The conclusion basically promises a significant amount of pain before these characters get their happy ending, if they even get one at all.
That's the big question.
It is. And if you think about the depth of the trauma Ciri just experienced, watching her friends be decapitated, their heads pickled, what kind of resolution could possibly mitigate the devastation that has been inflicted upon her character? That's the question of redemption and destiny that the final season has to face head on.